right, let's continue with more news at this hour. The eThekwini Municipality says at least 7 Durban beaches, which were recently closed due to high E. coli levels, will be reopened today, should test samples in fact be cleared. This follows the breaking down of one of the city's pump stations. The affected beaches are Umhlanga, Umdloti, Westbrook, as well as Warner, Bronze, Reunion and Winklespruit. Let's chat about this further. We're going to be joined via Zoom by Adopt a River Director, Janet Simpkins. Janet, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here on the SABC.
Thank you very much for having me.
How worried should we be about the E. coli levels in Durban as we speak?
Well, to be quite honest, this has been an ongoing matter since before the floods, actually. We have been monitoring a number of beaches for more than a year, and we have sporadic spikes at certain beaches, and it's often related to a failure in a pump station or heavy rains. So we've just had to adjust and unfortunately become accustomed to this prevalence of E. coli through sewage infiltration. And it's really just about managing as best we can the health of the public and being aware and hopefully the city doing the necessary testing on a regular basis.
You've spoken about some of the contributing factors at this point. Help us understand what role, if any, the current rolling blackouts are having on the high E. coli levels that we are seeing at our beaches.
Load shedding is definitely a significant factor in pump stations not functioning properly. They require power to do their job, and when the load shedding happens, a pump station to continue working would need backup generators if those are in place. Not all pump stations have backup generators. Ideally they should. And then of course, if there is a generator in place, it needs to be fueled. So that's the next overcoming obstacle, that there actually needs to be fuel there to run it. So we're seeing that has an impact, and when it all breaks down, that's when the overflow happens and moves into waterways and makes its way down to the coast.
What factors also influence E. coli levels when water samples are being taken, perhaps to determine if the water is safe to swim at the beach? How much E. coli is acceptable?
So in coastal waters, not more than 500 parts. There are contributing factors. It's really challenging to determine exactly and for how long that E. coli stays in those coastal waters. We do have to take into account that there are tides and winds at play. And so it's often a case of regular testing that really tracks over time which beaches have proven to be safer than not. And that's probably a better indicator because of the daily changes that we see in the coastal waters.
Janet, I want to look at Adopt a River's role in, the issues at hand, and look at what you're doing as an organization. What tips you have for those who are obviously heading over to the coast during during the holiday season? What have you sort of got planned to mitigate against some of those challenges?
So at Adopt a River, we have been involved with Talbot Laboratories sampling at regular points for well over a year now. We've, with that data, just been able to analyze over time which beaches have proven to be safer. And those are published on Talbot Laboratories and extensively on their social media. And we just urge the public to be aware. This is an ongoing issue, not only in eThekwini, but in all provinces. We just find that we've been heavily impacted in terms of tourism here. So just anyone coming down to the coast, we saw it over December when beaches were closed, and you just have to be aware of conditions that have preceded your visit. If there's heavy rains, it's often best to stay out of the water while it settles and everything moves down rivers and into the coastal waters. And then to pay attention to the information boards and eThekwini's opening and closing posts, just to be aware.
Janet Simpkins, thank you for your time with us here on the SABC, a director at Adopt a River, chatting to us about some of the issues that have come to the fore. We've seen several Durban beaches were closed due to high E. coli levels. At this point, eThekwini Municipality having said that at least 7 beaches now have been reopened and should be able to be reused after test samples are cleared. Again, an ongoing discussion just looking at the challenges that the coast is facing. This on the back of the floods, but also linked to load shedding and how it's adding to the problem. Again, thank you to Janet for chatting to us about that matter.